My name is Daniel Morris, and I'm 52 years old. Until last year, I was just an ordinary man living in a small town in North Carolina. I owned a hardware store, had a wife I adored, and a son who was the center of my world. My life wasn't perfect, but it was stable, routine, predictable, and comfortable. I thought I understood what mattered: paying the bills, keeping the business afloat, making sure my family was cared for. Faith was something I practiced, but only in a casual, surface-level way. We went to church on Sundays, I said prayers before meals, and I believed in God, but my faith was more of a habit than a burning fire. On the morning of March 12th, everything changed. It was a Tuesday, completely normal at first. I remember the smell of coffee brewing in the kitchen, the sound of the morning news on TV, and my wife, Claire, rushing to get our son, Jacob, ready for school. I was tying my shoes, planning to head out to the store, when suddenly I felt something slam into my chest. It was like a fist made of fire and iron punched straight through me. My breath vanished, my voice disappeared, and the world started spinning. My vision darkened at the edges. The last thought that crossed my mind wasn't about eternity. It was something silly, like how I hadn't fixed Jacob's bike chain yet. Then everything went black. The next thing I remember wasn't pain. It was silence. A complete, heavy silence that absorbed everything around me. The crushing pain in my chest was gone. I didn't feel fear anymore. Instead, I felt light, as if the weight of my body and all the worries I carried were stripped away. When I opened my eyes, it wasn't really my physical eyes. Somehow, I was floating, looking down at myself. I saw Claire on the phone, screaming into the receiver as she called 911, her face twisted with terror. Jacob stood frozen in the doorway, his little body trembling, tears streaming down his cheeks. He looked so afraid, and I wanted to reach out, to hold him, to tell him I was okay. But I had no body, no voice, no way to bridge the gap. All I had was awareness, and a strange, aching love that still connected me to them even as I realized I was dead. Then something began pulling me gently away. The walls of our home seemed to thin like smoke, and the whole scene faded. I was carried into a deep darkness, but it wasn't frightening. It was like sinking into the quietest ocean, wrapped in peace. I had no worries about my business, no thoughts about bills, no gnawing anxieties. For the first time in my adult life, I was utterly free. After what felt like both an instant and an eternity, I saw a tiny pinprick of light in the distance. It grew larger, brighter, warmer, until it filled everything around me. The closer I got, the more I felt something I'd never known before. A sense of being expected. It was as if I was coming home after a long, exhausting journey. And then I saw him. Out of the living light, a form appeared. Jesus Christ. He didn't look like the paintings I grew up seeing in church. He was more real, more solid, more alive than anything I'd ever encountered. His eyes were what captured me. They weren't a specific color I could name, but they were like endless universes of love and truth. The moment he looked at me, I felt completely known. Every mistake, every selfish thought, every failure as a husband and father, he saw it all. And yet, in his eyes, there was no condemnation, only a love so powerful it remade me from the inside out. I wept, not from sorrow but from relief. The weight of my whole life fell off me. He didn't speak with an audible voice, but his words bloomed inside my soul. Daniel, you are loved. Being in his presence was like merging with love itself. All fear and confusion melted away. For the first time, I felt truly at home. But Jesus told me he had things to show me. In an instant, the scene shifted, and I began to relive moments from my life. But this time I could see the unseen spiritual reality behind them. I saw myself arguing with Claire over money, prideful and harsh. Behind me, a shadowy figure whispered lies, feeding my pride. Meanwhile, Claire's prayers formed a shield of light around her heart. Jesus showed me how my impatience with a lonely customer at my hardware store had left a wound. I saw the slump in the man's shoulders as he walked away, and I realized I had missed an opportunity to show God's love. Jesus didn't condemn me. His sadness broke me. Yet his love also gave me a hunger to live differently. And then he said, "Now, Daniel, I will show you things beyond your own life. Do not be afraid." The vision shifted again, and I saw the earth from above, covered in lights and shadows. The golden lights were prayers, rising from every corner of the globe. Some were blazing strong, others faint and flickering. My gaze zoomed in on America. When my vision focused on America, I saw millions of golden threads rising like prayers into heaven. Some were strong and powerful, but many were thin and weak. And then I saw something that broke my heart. A gray, soupy fog spreading across cities and towns. People wandered inside it with their heads bowed, staring into glowing rectangles in their hands. Phones, tablets, screens, everywhere. Around them swarmed shadowy creatures, the same kind I had seen whispering into my own life before. They didn't attack violently, they distracted. Their whispers were constant. Look at this. Get angry at this. Desire this. Fear this. With every scroll and every tap, the fog grew thicker, and the flames of people's spirits dimmed. Jesus' voice filled me with sorrow. They are distracted. Their enemies do not need chains. They are willingly enslaved to screens and noise. Their prayers weaken because their attention is given to the enemy's devices. I saw churches, big, beautiful buildings with weak, flickering lights. The worship looked vibrant, but the people's hearts were far away, thinking about lunch or the game afterward. Then he showed me small home groups. Just a few people in living rooms or hospital beds, praying with all their hearts. Their prayers rose like blazing fire, cutting through the fog. Jesus whispered, "It is not the size of the gathering, but the focus of the heart that moves heaven." Then my view shifted, and the globe spun. I was staring at China. Darkness and oppression covered the nation like a suffocating red and black blanket. I felt the weight of fear and control pressing down. But beneath it, I saw lights so pure and intense they pierced the darkness like lasers. These lights came from crowded apartments, basements, remote farmhouses, even factory floors. I saw believers, men, women, and children, huddled together, singing softly, holding worn Bibles, praying with desperation. Their prayers weren't casual. They were fiery, gut-wrenching, raw. They prayed for strength, boldness, and even for their persecutors. I saw a man beaten in a prison cell on his knees, praying not for escape, but for the salvation of his guard. Light filled the cell, shaking even the guard who didn't understand what he felt. Jesus' voice carried both pride and love. This is the persecuted church. They have nothing, so they depend on me for everything. Their faith is forged in fire. Their prayers shake the foundations of their nation. Then I saw two giant scales. On one side was America, wealth, power, churches, comfort. On the other side were the poor believers in China, one by one added onto the scale, a grandmother praying, a student sharing faith, a hidden pastor. At first it looked hopeless, but then their faith transformed into blazing light. and the weight of it tipped the scale. Jesus whispered, "In the kingdom of heaven, the currency is faith, not comfort." A great shaking is coming. I saw America again, economic hardship, division, confusion, fear, the fog of distraction thicker than ever. Then China, more persecution, but also a revival spreading like wildfire underground. Jesus said, "America's comfort will be stripped, so their faith may grow. China's suffering will purify and multiply my church. One body, one family, you must pray for each other." Tears poured down my face. I begged him to let me stay, but he placed his hand on my shoulder. "Daniel, your work is not done. Your wife needs her husband. Your son needs his father. And I need my witness. Go back and tell them, wake up, pray, and listen for my voice. A great shaking is coming." The next moment, I was jolted back into my body. Pain tore through me, lights and voices surrounded me, and I gasped for air in an ambulance. I had been gone for 22 minutes. Doctors called it a miracle, but I know the truth. I was sent back with a message. And here it is. Heaven is real. The battle is real. America must wake up. China will rise in faith through fire, and time is short.